Everything's new today, obviously, for a lot of us, our first time here, locker room and parking and all of that. Obviously, there were a lot of things to be pleased about. A lot of young players that stepped up, and I mean, defensively, offensively, in the kicking game. It was one of those nights, and as coaches, we're teachers, and you want to see these guys do well, and it's fulfilling when guys go out and play hard and have the kind of game that you want to see. And so many of them, are trying to put their best stuff on tape, whether it's for us or maybe for another team. And so you root for every one of these guys. Any questions?
Yeah, Coach, after so many people put in so many strong performances tonight, how difficult will the next couple of days be for you? And
it's always difficult this time of year. That hadn't changed really in 16 years for me. So I typically meet with every player, and I was on the other side of that 4 times. And pretty soon, my mom said, "You need to start coaching or doing something else." I think the dream for so many of these guys is still alive, even if it's not here. The thing that keeps, I don't want to say us up at night, but making sure we find the right 53, and that, you don't want to lose a player when you had control over it, and then have him have success somewhere else. So, to credit the players, a lot of guys will make this challenging with their efforts tonight, during the week, really, and even last week. So it's always difficult.
Sean, with the number of players you have that are dealing with sort of like a couple weeks, maybe they're close to ready for game one.
There aren't too many, yeah.
Does that make it your roster challenge more difficult on Tuesday, trying to sort of project where those guys are?
I think the puzzle is when it's a player potentially that's 3 or 4 weeks. You got to protect him your first day, and then he goes to reserve injured, and you can have him back. Fortunately, the rules are a little bit more flexible and liberal relative to maneuvering your roster, but nonetheless, we've gone through, George and I, a handful of scouts, coaches, a ton of different scenarios from a personnel standpoint, and we'll continue to do that.
Red zone percentage, I think 5 of 6 down there, and then another positive turnover margin. What did you see in both of those areas that pleased you?
Look, I thought up front we played well, defensively and offensively, and when you play that way, in the trenches, you're gonna have games with success, and it kind of, third down numbers were good on offense, they were good on defense, turnover, all of those things. I thought we were physical tonight, and even in the kicking game, if you watch the coverage units and the return units, we did a lot of things well. We'll look at the tape tomorrow with these guys. They'll all come in. They'll watch the tape. We'll meet. They'll lift and run, and have some time off then.
Sean, if I could just pair up, first your thoughts on Albert Okwuegbunam tonight, and then
he's one of those guys that, yeah, he had a big night. I mean, holy cow. What was your second one?
Just what the time frame is on when will you meet about the roster, and then when will you start telling guys?
Well, we've already been meeting on it. We'll keep meeting on it. I'm not going to give you the information relative to when we're telling our players or meeting with them, because we'll have different groups at different times. But it happens in the next 3 days, then practice squad. So it takes a minute. And I would say this, you guys have done this long enough, the first week and a half or 2 weeks of this season is very noisy. It isn't until about week 3 where you begin to, the transaction numbers in our league become fairly consistent. But week 1, and just think every team's going from 90 to 53. And I say 90 to 53, 90 to 53 protected. And then once your candidates to be on the practice squad are clear, so it takes a minute. I mean, and then we're evaluating everyone else's cuts. We claimed 5th this year, which is which is high, and that's a good spot to be in. You don't want to be in that spot, but that's what it is.
What were your thoughts tonight on Jarrett Stidham and just how he came on after maybe not having the best of outings in the preseason opener and just got better?
Yeah, listen, he's been consistent all during camp. I thought he did real well. He started off really hot. He took a shot on the one deep interference completion, bounced back. I thought he played well, made a lot of good decisions. I was encouraged.
Sean, with some of the receivers that played, especially Brandon Johnson, was some of that just to get him more football? And then
he
Mims
missed a lot of. He's missed 2 weeks, so yeah. I mean, there were a lot of guys playing that we hadn't seen snaps from. So he certainly was going to be one of them, but he wasn't the only one. But yeah, we tried to get him some deep balls because we feel like he's someone that can run. But yeah, it's good to get him back this week.
And then Mims as well, just
same way. He's missed time, and so the guys that sat are more of the veteran group or they were injured. There were some guys that are veterans we had to play. There's just a lot that goes into saying, hey, we're going to sit all these people. We sat, I think, 23 guys, and they worked out earlier today. So a number of players that have missed time, we still needed to see more, especially from the younger players.
Sean, I wanted to ask, what were your thoughts on kind of like Drew Sanders' performance today? He had a pick, and I believe like 4 or 5 tackles.
Good. I mean, the last week and a half for him, 2 weeks, has been good. The second preseason game against San Francisco was good. Just seeing him, for a young player, there's a learning curve, and then the confidence starts happening, and I think he's a player. He's one of those guys that right before our eyes, we're seeing someone gain confidence. I would have liked for him to hold on to the ball. Fortunately, we recovered, but he got his hands close to one during the week in practice with these guys, and today he's real athletic. It's awfully important to him, so I've been encouraged.
Final two, Cody, then Len. Coach, right here, you've talked so much about making the right 53-man roster, but also on the same side of the roster, the practice squad. How do you build the perfect 16-man practice squad, considering so many other teams are maybe vying for some guys you have highly?
Well, I think what's important when you're talking about practice squad players, are they developmental? Are they guys that you feel like have an upside curve to it? Coaches, all of us in general, can be very protective and say, well, this way I'll be a perfect practice squad player. Well, he's not if you don't see an upside to become a 53 player. And with the rules the way they are now, there's so much more flexibility. So I know it's 53 and 16, but I look at it much differently. I look at it as, that's the entire roster. We'll put up there, once we get this roster cleaned up, we'll put the current undrafted players that our league's seen in the last 20 years and guys that have been on the practice squad in the last 20 years. It's amazing to see. Many of them are on big contracts now. So I think there's got to be a clean and correct vision for a practice squad player. And I think that, you're gathering all the information but every team this year will have players coming off that 16 up and playing, significant roles.
Last year, a big problem was the injury bug. How do you like the quality of your depth on the team this year?
2 different questions, right? Yeah, I can't speak on last year's injury issues. I know that I've read some of the articles about us being snake bitten. I don't buy into that. I've said that before. I think we're fairly healthy. Sure that we have injuries because you're going to have them. I think your question is, how do I feel about our depth? I feel better tonight about our depth than I did a week ago or 2 weeks ago. And yet you're constantly paying attention to the back 15, 10 spots of your roster. So I'm encouraged, and yet there's some areas I would say that are, we've got some hot spot areas position-wise. I won't share them with you, but so that's what you think about as a coach. Where can we, in this roster cut down, where might we find players that can help this team. All right, thank you.